Welcome, everyone, to episode 64 of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. Joined alongside me is my brother, Tanner. How's it hanging, dude?
It's going well. We got, like I say every week, we got a lot of sports going on, but I want to see how you're doing. Mr. Angels fan, with Otani over there. How are we feeling? With the Dodgers in the postseason. Have you watched any postseason baseball? Like what? How are your feelings seeing him just the Dodgers just going crazy over there?
I mean, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like they paid him like we were talking about last week, like 700 million or something crazy to go over there, and he performs in the postseason, and it's fun to watch. Yeah, I've caught some postseason baseball. I didn't anticipate Detroit making it, so that was really fun to watch. And then the Mets are up there too. The Yankees are up there. Like you're saying, the Dodgers are there. There's so many ways it could go. There's so many ways it could go. You have no idea what's going to happen there. But I was watching the game. I think it was last night. Aaron Judge finally got his first home run of the postseason, and Stanton's already going on the Yankees, and you don't want Judge to get going. Like the one crutch they had, I feel like, was just not Judge wasn't going, and he gets a home run, and he's just ready to go. It looked cold though. Didn't that game look cold?
I mean, it's up in Yeah, I mean, there's not like they between Cleveland and New York. It's not there's not like a warm place that they're gonna go to. So at least it's gonna be consistent throughout the series. But no, I mean. It looks like it's pretty much over at this point. Like you were saying, you don't want to get Judge going. Like that's it's the one thing that they pretty much needed to go get, finally get over that hump. So.
And the Dodgers are, a team that's always fun to watch. Being from Cal, and I picked a team when I was very young, and I guess you could say, unfortunately, I picked the Angels.
Yeah.
I didn't pick the Dodgers. I didn't go for the Dodgers, but hey. Picking the Angels, I gotta pick the Padres too, man. You know what I mean? Like I could have like any other one. But hey, when I was a kid, I remember I was big into baseball, and I watched them win a World Series. Pretty sure they had like Jared Weaver as their pitcher, and I'm just like sitting there and got like 2004, 2005 or something like that. And I'm like, my team's best ever, and then like they haven't even been close since. You know what I mean? But hey, unfortunately, we're jumping around the board a little bit. We're usually talking football. I'm jumping into hockey. If you're watching us on YouTube, apologies. Because, you're supposed to have the stuff on the side. But we just kind of went off the rails here at the beginning. Anyway, hockey time, real quick. The Sharks are defeated. They have not won a single game yet. They are 0-2-1. So we're over here hurting a little bit. Watch the Dallas Stars game.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch it. It was a blackout. But, I was watching the score.
They look good. Dallas looks good. They put in 2 in the first game of the season, and within like 15 seconds or something crazy like that. I think 30 seconds, but
undefeated.
Dallas looks good. There's a lot of teams that are not looking good. Like Edmonton at this point, still looking for their first win. Austin Matthews really hasn't. I don't know if he's scored yet. Like there's a lot of stuff that's going on, but 82 games. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everybody forgets what happened to Edmonton last year. Hey, go look at Edmonton start last year. They were pretty similar to what they did this year. Then they went and made a cup run. Now, I did watch the Amazon series, Face Off on Amazon Prime. It is so freaking good for anybody that is a fan of the pod. Go check that out if you have Amazon Prime. If you don't, get the free trial, you know what I mean, for like a month. I promise it's worth it. But, dude, like you follow these guys with these hockey players and you like feel so much more invested in the sport. And doing that, I found the old USA hockey jersey right here. If you're watching on the tube, that's mine. It looks good. It looks real good. On the other side, we'll have an edition coming soon. I'm going to find the other jersey that I did a jersey swap. But hey, we got some accolades on this podcast. And speaking of accolades,
Hey, before you get into it, what number is that on that jersey? Is that your old classic 47?
I think it's 87. I think I was that big of a Crosby fan, and I wouldn't tell everybody. But no, I mean, you got to remember, I grew up playing hockey in the early 2000s. That's Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin's draft. Like I watched the Blackhawks dynasty with Taves and Kane, like Duncan Keith. Like I watched all those old dynasties, and when I was going to hockey games, like watching freaking Paul Kariya, like, didn't even realize it at the time, but I'm watching my favorite player of all time, You know what I mean? And so it's just big hockey guy. Had to bring him. I know everyone sees the basketball cards, the football, the X Games, baseball. Like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? He's got a hockey tattoo on his inner arm, and he never talks about hockey. What's going on here? Well, the jersey's here, so yeah. Thank you, YouTube. Appreciate it. If you're on Spotify, you're like, get to football. Well, we heard you. Okay, Sean, we know you listen. Adam, we know you listen. Dad, thanks, man. We'll get there right now. Here you go. Football time. Dallas Cowboys. We always start off the Dallas Cowboys because we got a lot of our followers because of the Dallas Cowboys in the draft, right? We're big Dallas Cowboy fans, but we're not homers. And this is going to be a fun segment because it's pretty much Chad is just going to shit on the Cowboys for just a little bit here. But I'm going to let Tanner start it off because I've been talking for a while. But Tanner, go ahead and tell me, $60 million a year, pulled in the fourth quarter. I ended up winning my fantasy game by less than half a point, but sorry, Zach. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
It's a lot. There's a lot. It's just not. I mean, I think the biggest culprit, obviously, you look at the defense. Cowboys defense that is, and just the inability to do really anything at all. And I think it stems from just obviously not being able to get pressure and stuff like that in the run game. You go back and watch that Lions game, it looks like college tape. It looks like the holes are 15 feet wide, and it's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. Jahmyr Gibbs is just running all over that place, and it's bad from Cowboys perspective. It's gaping wide hole. Like, it's just, you look at it and they're getting like 10 yards and then they're getting touched. I know it was a pretty good reference, wasn't it? You like that one? You haven't heard that one in a while, huh?
I'm a child at heart, man. I'm sorry. It's not made for the kids. Throwing a penny down a hallway. I'm right there with you. Gotcha. Right there.
It's just, you're not going to win a whole lot of football games, if you can't even touch the guy until he's 10 yards down the field. And it didn't matter who was in. Jahmyr Gibbs,
the safety.
David Montgomery.
Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker are the first point of contact.
Yeah,
in terms of the Cowboys, both the safeties.
That's literally the last level, and not to mention Jared Goff. Obviously, he had a fantastic day, and they were play actioning all day on him. I mean, when you can establish the run like that, you basically control the game. You do whatever you want, and at a point, I heard Lions chants inside of AT&T Stadium. So it was it's their stadium at that point in the game, and Jared Goff's just letting it rip. It looks like Jamison Williams. I think he had one called back if I remember, and then he got another one. So one of them I think was on Diggs. So Diggs has not playing well. He's your number one corner, and you hate to see it. Hopefully Blaine can come back and bring a little extra spark, but obviously the injuries are a big deal. You didn't really get a whole lot of pressure on Jared Goff the entire game. And that's not even mentioning the offense. It looked like Rico Dowdle basically disappeared in that game. Zeke was getting, tackled for loss pretty much every time he got the ball. And it just looked very choreographed from the Cowboys. And it didn't look like, they went down. They got down to the red zone a couple times, but obviously, Dak threw that interception and they just couldn't get into the end zone. I mean, when your defense is giving up, 47 points, it's going to be hard to win the game anyways. But, Dallas's offense wasn't doing them a whole lot of favors either. So it was just all around bad. I think that, there's some good pieces. I think Jalen Tolbert has shown in the past couple of games that he is the number 2 guy, that he can be relied on in that position since Brandon Cooks is, on IR during this time. But other than that, I really haven't seen a whole lot of positives from the offense just in general. Obviously, you don't want to see Aiden Hutchinson go down in the way that he did during that game. That is tough, season-ending injury. That's going to be a big, big gaping hole for the Lions, especially come the postseason time. That's where he likes to shine. So I hate that the Cowboys did it, but it sucks. And hopefully they can move forward and they can next man up for the Lions and the Cowboys. They look like shit, and they do not have the next man up mentality. So we'll see where they go from here, but they've got another tough contest, I believe, on the other side of the bye week. I think, is that Atlanta or is that Philly? Which one is that one next? I wonder which.
I'd have to pull up the schedule. If you want to pull it up, why I go on a couple points that you made, go ahead. But what you said about Trayvon, what's really interesting is that, this is the first time in Trayvon's like career, it feels like, that he's getting beat like a drum.
Yeah.
But he's not getting the interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like usually you're me as a fan. First of all, I love ball hawking corners like Trayvon Diggs, like Richard Sherman, like Deron Bland. I understand I just compared Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland to Richard Sherman. I get it. That was a bit challenging to do, and I apologize for that.
At least in
just
the
off the top
ability
of
to
my head.
find the ball in the air. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Richard Sherman has, I mean, he oh my gosh, like Prime Sherm was unbelievable, dude. I enjoy watching football games like that. I enjoy having corners like that. I understand why a lot of corners go up and just hit the ball away, like Sauce Gardner. Like Sauce Gardner, I've seen a couple times where he could easily take that pick, and it's like, nope, I'm just going to knock that away because I'm not sure if I can get there. And that's a veteran move, and then also a move that Trayvon's not going to make. You know what I mean? Trayvon's going to go for that ball every time, former wide receiver. And it's interesting because you're just not seeing the turnovers that you've seen recently on the side of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's the reason that Dallas's defense has been pretty good the last couple of years, is because of those turnovers. Because if you're getting Deron Bland with that many turnovers a season, 10 plus, and you're getting Trayvon Diggs with all those turnovers, 10 plus, like that's insane. You know what I mean? That's absolutely insane. Not to mention, oh yeah, there's a guy on the line called Micah Parsons who gets at least a couple a year, and then you're going to throw in a couple dumb interceptions in there as well, not to Trayvon, not to Deron Bland, and then you're also going to throw in a couple fumbles that you just didn't mean to happen. So yeah, that's the reason that Dallas was so good on the defensive side of the ball. And when you're not able to turn the ball over and your star players getting beat, unfortunately, that's the outcome. And this is the problem that we've been talking about this whole podcast and before the season even started, right? In a draft class, you usually see 2-3 players that are immediate starters. When week one comes, your first round pick's going to be starting unless it's a quarterback and you sit him, and your second round pick's going to be starting, and maybe even your third. 2 to 3 picks every draft is going to start. Cowboys started like 7 or 8. Because they didn't have a choice, because they didn't do anything in free agency. And then Jerry Jones just went on an interview, went on the radio show, and that was bad.
It was pretty bad.
It's like you cannot threaten somebody to fire them after just asking a question. Now, given you got to listen to the whole thing. But as a Cowboy fan, as someone that was a season ticket holder, our dad was for so long, I'm really happy that we don't have season tickets right now because this team looks like they're in shambles. And it sucks to see as a Cowboy fan, but this year, like we were talking about, we're realistic fans. I think people tune into this podcast because we just give our honest opinion about teams. And the Dallas Cowboys right now are a number 3 team at best in the NFC East. That doesn't make the playoffs. You have the number 1 quarterback and the highest paid wide receiver at this point on your team. You know what I mean? Like, you can point to injuries, sure. You can point to coaching, sure. But good teams find a way to get past that. And I think you're going to see a prime example of a team that just kicked the crap out of the Cowboys with the Lions. Aiden Hutchinson went down. Don't get me wrong. That is a very big part of that defense, just like Micah Parsons is for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, that's next man up mentality is just not really happening right now. Just not a whole lot happening defensively. And when your team's on the field that much, offense is going to be on the field that much. So it's just like they can't get anything going. You know what I mean? They can't get anything going on the defensive side of the ball. That's what I wanted to hit on your point with the defensive side. With the offensive side, it's tough. And here's a thing that I'm gonna do real quick. And this is, let's have this conversation real quick. Okay? Dak Prescott's number one paid quarterback in the NFL, right? So I'm looking at this article, right, from ProFootballNetwork.com. Just the starting quarterbacks. It says it was updated recently. This is a yes or no question, okay? I'm gonna play the game along with you. Quarterbacks that you would rather have than Dak Prescott. Okay, we're gonna go just down the list.
I like this game.
The AFC.
Played this game a couple
Lamar
times.
Jackson.
Yes.
Yes. Josh Allen.
Yep.
Yes. Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson.
No.
Bo Nix.
No.
C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
For sure. Anthony Richardson.
No.
No. At the beginning of the season, I might have said yes. Not really. I'm just a big fan. Trevor Lawrence, no, not for me. Not for you. I don't think
anymore.
So. Yeah, not anymore. Mahomes,
that's 5.
Yeah. Aiden O'Connell, no disrespect.
Or 5.
This one's interesting.
Or 5.
Justin Herbert. That's tough.
I don't watch a lot of Chargers games, to be honest with you, but I'll say for the argument.
Okay, you'll say yes for that one. That one's going to be interesting. Also, the Miami Dolphins have Tyler in parentheses Snoop Huntley starting. By the way,
no.
Shouts out Snoop Huntley. That's incredible.
Snoop Huntley.
No there. Drake May for me is a no.
No.
For you,
no.
Aaron Rodgers, no for me.
No anymore.
Russell Wilson, Will Levy.
No.
Will Levis.
No.
Okay. Captain Kirk. Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Yeah. Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Really?
Dude, I mean, look at what he's. I mean, yeah, but like, look at his ability to scramble. Like, he's just such a good athlete. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'll take him.
Andy Dalton. We cannot say yes to this, even though he's playing better.
He was on the Cowboys at one point.
Yeah, Caleb Williams. For me, yeah.
I'll say no since I said yes to Kyler, but
okay. There we go. So you're at 8 right now.
Yeah, I'm at 8. I think you're probably around 8 as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm at 7
because did you say yes or no on Herbert?
I said no on Herbert and no on Kyler, so I'm 2 less than you.
I think you're on 7.
Yeah, there we go. This is math on this podcast. If you're listening, I apologize for that. So you said no on Caleb. Okay, Dak's there. Obviously, this is a big one. The Goffense.
Yeah, dude, come on. Come on.
Right.
What is that question?
Right.
Absolutely.
Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at 10.
Matthew Stafford.
Oh, it's hard because he's old, but I think he's still spinning it. I'll take Dak right now just because Stafford's not got a ton of time left.
Sam Darnold. That's a tough one because I could see the fall off next season.
You could see the fall off next game. Like, no offense, but
I'm not doing it. I'm not
gonna do it. But if he keeps playing the way he is, then yeah, absolutely.
Spencer Rattler because he's playing in place of Derek Carr. No. Daniel Jones.
No to Spencer or Derek Carr. Sorry.
Okay, no to Daniel Jones too.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting one. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'll say yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point I have to as well because he's gotten deeper in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy.
Yes, that's crazy to say, but yes, yeah, absolutely.
You got to take old Purdinator.
I think Purdy is no longer in the game manager kind of situation. I think he's played really, really well this season.
100%. The Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith.
No, sorry, Geno. Last week just confirmed that for me.
This is going to be a really tough one for you.
This is 12, by the way.
Shake and bake. Baker Mayfield.
I'm gonna say no.
Dallas's offense,
I think
it would be atrocious.
I don't think so. I would say no. I think Baker is. I love Baker, but he definitely has his moments like Dak does as well. So.
Well, end it off with Jaden Daniels, and that's going to be a yes.
That's 13.
That is 13 quarterbacks that you would rather have. I think I'm at about 12.
Yeah.
So. That's been and there's one that we said no to that I'm really interested. Well, no, never mind. I was gonna say Tua, but you can't even answer that question because you don't. I mean, he's one hit away from.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it with or we said it with Derek Carr. Like, I mean, obviously he's not there, but like, with Tua, like, I mean, he's got absolute cannon. He's got talent there too.
But
I wonder how much of that is the system. And no offense to Tua with that, but like. I mean, the system kind of sucks without him in it, to be fair. So, it probably was a ton of him. So, but he's very accurate down the field too. But I would still probably rather have Dak. I like Dak a lot.
There we go. So that's kind of the way I wanted to just have that game real quick. You're 13. I'm about 12 quarterbacks, and he's the number one quarterback in the NFL. Are those 12 quarterbacks in the future going to probably get paid more than him? Yeah, all those guys most likely are going to get paid more than him. But I mean, it's unfortunately every year we say it on this pod. There's 2 Dallas Cowboy teams. There's the team that shows up week 1 this year that just blew the gates off, and everybody was like, "Oh shit, here come the Cowboys." then there's the rest of the season that's happened. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate.
Against the
True,
Saints.
week 2. Exactly. So, it's one of those things where I do think that the Cowboys, like, do they have an outside shot? Yeah, for sure. But you would have to run the table in the division, and that's going to be really, really hard to do against a very good Washington team and a very talented Eagles team. We'll say very talented.
I think too, it might even be easier to win the division than to get a wild card spot, because you go look at the NFC North, like there are definitely 2 teams and probably 3 teams and maybe even 4 teams that could come out of that conference or that division. Excuse me. I doubt 4 will come out of it, but you never know. Those teams, I believe it's like there's like 3 of them that are 4-2, and then the Vikings are like 5-0 or 6-0 or whatever they are. So like it's that's those are at least 2 wild card spots right there, and you're going to be fighting for the last one with a team who's probably going to want it more than you do. So it might even be easier to win the division like they did last year. So I don't. And the division's tough, so it's not even like a good comparison. So like it. You look at it right now. Cowboys are not a favorite to make the playoffs. I think even a little bit.
And that's the worst case scenario. That is the literal worst case scenario because, in the offseason, you did nothing but sign Dak and CD. And like I said, that interview with Jerry, went pretty much viral because how is it not going to?
I believe he issued an apology on that as well, I think, later on. So, obviously he did regret what he said, but it was definitely a heated moment after a heated game on his birthday. So I kind of understand where it came from.
Yeah.
If the Cowboys put up or the Lions put up 47 on the Cowboys on my birthday, I would be pretty mad too.
Be a little teed, and unfortunately he's the, like the owner of the team and the general manager, so he can't really get, too wasted out there. No, it's just it's tough because it's one of those things where you look at it from the outside in and you're like, I would have done this, I would have done that, I would have done this, I would have done that, but that's all in hindsight. You know what I mean?
It's so hard.
Yeah, this year, unfortunately, if it keeps going like it is, I'm hoping for 4th in the NFC. If we're doing this old dance, we get some real good draft picks.
Top 10,
And
hopefully.
then maybe next year a new coaching staff as well. We're not gonna go get Belichick, even though I want to.
It could happen. You never know.
He wants to be GM, and Jerry's not going to give that up.
It's true. That's it. That's very true. I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, there's probably going to be a new coach in Dallas. I think McCarthy will stay to the end of the year. I think he stays to the end of the year, and because Jerry doesn't really fire people, and his contract's up at the end of the year, so it really wouldn't make a whole ton of sense to fire him anyways. So I think they're just going to run with it through the end, and then see what happens. Obviously, like they're not going to tank or anything like that. The Cowboys are too talented to do that. But something needs to change, and I think it should have changed last year. You and I were calling for heads at one point, it seemed like, in the offseason, but now it's kind of, the ugly head is rearing that we kind of tried to cut off earlier, right? So it's, it's not surprising, I don't think, for anyone, really, at all. You look at the offense, you look at what they lost, and you look at, kind of how they did at the end of last season. You're like, yeah, this team definitely needs to improve, and what do? No offseason moves. They didn't make a big splash in the drafts like the Eagles did, like Houston did a year ago. It's those types of moves that can save or break a franchise. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they end up, with a horrible trade for Deshaun Watson. And sometimes it ends up, looking pretty great with the Houston Texans. And heck, even the Cowboys with Herschel Walker back in the day, man. So, it's some things like that, you got to do, especially when you're on the cusp. I'm not saying they got to go out and make a massive trade. That's not what Jerry usually does, but things do need to change. You just saw, and we'll get to it later, but you just saw 2 massive wide receiver moves across the NFL this last day. And it's, that's a team that's going to make a Super Bowl and probably break a Super Bowl for another team. So it's huge, man. It's those types of moves that will absolutely save your season. I mean, heck, the Dallas Cowboys did it with Amari Cooper not even that long ago. So
we'll see what happens. Good thing Dallas cannot lose this week on a bye. Moving to the rest of the NFL, because that's it for the Cowboys this episode. I mean, we got to just Bucks put up a 50 burger. You know what I mean? Like,
Play the Saints, right?
oh, yeah, that was a game, man. It was a game. Most points scored in the first half in the whole season. I mean, come on, man. Had that one going. Had the other one. It was good. It was a 2 TV setup day. It was fun. But Bucks put up 50. Um, Baker looked good. A lot of TDs that game. Did slow down in the second half. Not for the Bucks, but Saints did.
Rattler didn't look that
Drake.
bad. He didn't look awful, but like I don't know, he got some drives going. He wasn't like insane, but he wasn't the worst thing in the world. Hopefully there's something to build on there. If you're a Saints fan, hopefully maybe Derek Carr is going to be out for at least 4 games, so at least 3 more. So hopefully Spencer Rattler can get something going. It wouldn't be. I mean, so far he looks way better than some other rookie quarterbacks I've seen in recent memory. So there's something to be positive about.
I mean, a kid that transferred a lot in college, went to South Carolina, went to went to some different colleges,
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, as well,
Mm-hmm.
and made his way in the NFL. And whenever he got drafted, I thought to myself that's a kid that I mean, he's had a couple games in college where you're like, good Lord, like,
Yep.
who is this kid? You know what I mean? Like, who is this kid? So you saw glimpses of that, right? You saw splashes. So it's just, you got to put the whole thing together. And that's the NFL, and that's what makes good and great. But not too bad. Definitely not a bad start. And you're going up against the Bucks defense. That's
Yeah.
tough.
It's
You know what I
hard,
mean? A
man.
division matchup.
Yeah, they know you. Vita Vea is a monster, so and they showed him. He showed him why he is named. Vita Vea.
He's he's so good. Drake May made his first NFL start for the Patriots. 20 of 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Pretty good, man.
Um,
Pretty good. I liked what I saw
hey,
a lot. I thought those deep balls were like on the money. I thought that, in a game that they were getting blown out, like he played well. He played really well. They got to be happy about that for the next, for the hopefully the next game in London. Drake May over in London.
that's the morning game. That's hey, if you wake up for it, good for you. I'm not sure this week. We'll see. I don't miss football ever, but
What do you think of Drake
that's
May?
so. Here's the thing. In the prospect profile in the offseason, my favorite part about the player, he when I it's funny because it's like, oh, you don't like Drake May. It's like that's not true. He just wasn't my favorite out of the quarterbacks that were drafted this year. And so far, now that Caleb and Jaden, I think you can understand it. Michael Penix hasn't done anything. He hasn't been there yet. JJ McCarthy, I said, wasn't NFL ready. He got injured. Bo Nix, I said, is going to be, decent, but I see him kind of towards the end. And then I put in Drake May there. So I don't think I'm that far off right now. Right now, I'm not that far off.
Pretty
Now,
on the
given Bo
money.
Nix, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, listen to Pod in the offseason. It was exactly what I saw in college with those deep balls. A couple of those deep balls were very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he connected on 2 of them, and that's pretty much the reason he got his touchdowns, because when you're getting that many yards, you're going to go there and get some points out of it, hopefully, right? So I thought it wasn't a bad start. The fact he threw up 3 TDs in his first game was like, oh, okay. I thought it was going to be like because like when you saw Caleb at the beginning of the year, he didn't get 3 TDs right away.
No.
He did in London this past week. Got 4, should have had 5. He got 1 taken back. Take the change. You know what I mean? Get Caleb Villain in London, dude, that's so sick. Especially because I'm such a big Caleb Williams fan. But solid start, and like you said, something to build off for the Patriots. And look, I'm not one to bash rosters. Just kidding. I'm a couch warrior. Of course, I'm going to. We have a podcast. That's why we do it. Patriots don't have the best roster.
Nope.
But he made that offense look pretty dang good. And I'm not saying they like skipped a beat, because they haven't really had a beat, since Tom left, but he made him look pretty good. And, with some offseason moves, the new coaching change there, the defense that they built on, the continued run support with Ramondre Stevenson and all the guys that they have back there, I think it could be a team that could compete.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a division that you're unfortunate in, you know what I mean? Because you got a big dog up there up top, and you got the Jets, but I don't think this year, maybe next year, but I think you're still a couple years off if you're going to compete for that first spot for the division. But did you kind of see the same thing? I mean, you kind of nailed it with the 2 deep balls there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's they're not worried about this year, and they're not worried. That's obviously why Jacoby Brissett was starting and not Drake May. To begin the season, they wanted to give him a little bit of time, but it's like, all
Smart.
right, Brissett, that's what your role was. You're coming in here and you're going to be teach Drake May and kind of hold the reins until he's ready to go. And Gerard Mayo said he's ready to go, and he went in there through 3 tutties, and I think it's justified in that start alone. So I think he looks better in that game than I think Brissett kind of has all season. So I love it. I think that he's going to continue to build off of it, and hopefully they can not break him by the time his rookie season is over, because that offensive line is. They've seen better days. We'll say that. But hey, hopefully they win a couple more games. Hopefully Cleveland loses a couple more games. Just put them down on the number 1 overall pick.
Not a bad look there. Sanders to Cleveland and then Travis Hunter going to Colorado 1 and 2. My goodness. I was looking this weekend, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, we're 6 games in the season, right around there, and I'm just thinking about the top NFC teams, thinking about the top AFC teams. Not going too crazy here, you know what I mean? But top NFC team right now, you have to put the Vikings at number 1 because they haven't lost. You have to. You can't not, right? They got the Lions there because
right behind them.
And then arguably right behind them, dude, it's the Commanders, if not a little bit in front of them. You know what I mean? Because I
like that. I put them now they're solid there.
But now with Aiden Hutchinson, to me, I don't know. I don't know how many games, because he steals games. He absolutely steals games. But this Washington team looks so good. This Baltimore game that they played against, even though they lost, they competed and almost won that game.
They were
Baltimore to me
till the very end.
Yeah. And Baltimore to me is a top team. Now, that was my top 3 NFC teams. My top 3 AFC teams: the Chiefs undefeated, the Texans because CJ. Come on now, Stroud, and the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, because I can't give Buffalo the nod over the Ravens. But the Ravens have they fell at the very beginning of the season, and they haven't fallen since. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the AFC right now, I know we said AFC coming in this year had a lot better teams. I didn't necessarily think that the Vikings were going to be number 1. Right now, the Lions being number 2, that's not a surprise at all. And Washington being 3 is the biggest surprise. I think a lot of people thought of, because Jaden, everybody knew Jaden was going to be good, but my goodness, Jaden, he's blown the roof off that place.
I think I'd agree with you. I think that the NFC, I think it's clearly Vikings number 1, and I think you still put the Lions at number 2, because I'm pretty sure you can kind of cancel them out with, I think Jonathan Allen. Yeah, he got injured this week for Washington, and I'm pretty sure he's out on IR. I don't know how long he'll be out. He might be for an extended period of time. So that's big, loss for them as well. Kind of in a very similar position. So, I think Washington's going to be just fine, though. They've always had a stout defensive line, and it's more for Daron Payne. He's got to get in there. He's got to start, proving his worth now. But with Dan Quinn, man, it doesn't really matter who's in on that defensive line. They're going to get pressures. Like he's a great evaluator of talent, and he's great in big situations, and he just knows where to put these guys in order for them to succeed. That's what he's done his entire career. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator, and he's looking like a great head coach again. So it's fun if you're a Washington fan. Commanders. It's been a while, but they finally got themselves a quarterback, and they look really good.
Yeah, I got to get a better name though. Moving on to the trades. It's horrendous. It's so bad.
But yeah, AFC 1, 2, 3. I agree with you as well.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's one of those. Moving on to the trades, because Devontae Adams goes from the Raiders. With Derek Carr leaving, it wasn't a shock that Devontae was going. Mm-hmm. He goes to the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. The fact that they did that, like on the Pat McAfee show, that the fact that he was in the background, he walked in, that was so sick. And then Amari Cooper, another trade for Coop, and the Browns are basically retaining his entire salary, and the Bills are just flat out showing for like a 3rd and I think a 6th or a 7th or something like that, and doesn't look good, with that Cowboys with trade with when they originally gave up Amari Cooper. But hey, I love Coop. The whole stadium always chanted Coop whenever he caught the ball, whenever he scored a touchdown. And Both of these moves were very solid moves in my opinion. Jets, I don't know that move is going to have. I mean, I think it's definitely going to have that big of an impact, but it's just
it will.
It will because it's Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. But like watching the Jets play, they are definitely missing something, and I don't know if it's just the lack of time with Garrett Wilson, but to me, Garrett Wilson's a number one wide receiver, and now the fact that you're putting him at number two, I mean, you're talking Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at this point. Like
exactly.
These guys just jumped up to like the best or top 5 minimum wide receiver core in the entire league with the Jets. And guess what? With the Bills, they were lacking a number one wideout, and it was very, very obvious. They've had some great play from the guys that have stepped up, not taking anything away from those guys that are on that team, but they needed a number one guy, someone to take eyes at least, and Coop's that guy. Mm-hmm. Now, how is it going to work out with Josh and Coop? Because Josh is a incredible deep ball thrower. And at times, you could argue he doesn't have the best accuracy. Coop is a pure route runner that if you have accuracy, that is the best combination that you can have. So it's interesting because you've seen just Coop get downplayed in this Browns offense these past ever since he's got there. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how much Coop has left in the tank, and obviously it's Devontae Adams. He's one of the best in the league. He's gonna hoop wherever he goes. But are you fans of both those trades? I mean, they didn't give up virtually anything to get these guys.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things on it. I'll start on with the Amari Cooper trade because it does hit close to home, but it's one of those things. From the Cleveland perspective, you got a guy who's been there in the system for a couple years. Not the at this point, you saw his message on Instagram. He wanted to leave. It's not like he wasn't going to leave in the offseason. His contract was up this year, I believe. And he was, at least you got a third-round pick, basically, for a guy that was basically going to leave in free agency. So, in my opinion, I don't dislike the move at all. Obviously, it's when you look at it from, a competitiveness standpoint and do the Browns want to win kind of standpoint, yeah, it looks kind of bad. You take away and trade away your best receiver, the guy who I believe had the most touchdowns on the team with 2. So now a safety is now leading the touchdowns on this team with 1. So it's not a good look in terms of, the offensive production. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they just got rid of pretty much their biggest piece on offense. So
Chubb's back.
And that's exactly where I was going. Nick Chubb is back. So the piece comes back in an interesting way. Hopefully this team just goes down and just relies on the run and just goes back to their old ways with Baker Mayfield when he wasn't, his arm was slightly disconnected from its socket, you know what I mean? Back when the year that they did let him go. But no, another thing with Coop too, it's, he didn't play the best in Cleveland, but is that a result of Cleveland's system or is that a result of Amari Cooper falling off? I think it's probably, what I said first. I think it's just it's not a great system to begin with, especially for Amari Cooper. I think he's going to go into Buffalo and I think he's going to succeed so well. Like, I think he's just going to be great. He's succeeded pretty much everywhere he's gone that hasn't been Cleveland. And even at moments in Cleveland, he shined. And that's just his pure talent. Obviously in Dallas, I think he was a clear-cut number 1 and one of the best receivers that Dallas has seen. That's not named CeeDee Lamb recently or Des Bryant. You know what I mean? And he's up there with those two. So I think in recent memory, like, that's what his impact was. Same with when he was on the Raiders. So I think anywhere that he goes, he's going to succeed. And this is probably the best quarterback that's ever thrown to him. That is. So I think the sky's the limit for Coop. And yes, he's absolutely a savvy route runner. Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to, you can line him up pretty much anywhere and he's going to do a whole lot of stuff. But I think that's, kind of what the Browns didn't do a whole lot with them is they just didn't really utilize him to his strength. They just kind of used him as that, basic X receiver. I think the Bills are going to move him all over. I think they're just going to be super fun with him. It's just the me show now. But I think he's going to go out there. I think he's just going to have they're going to have fun with them. Amari Cooper, he's one of those guys that if you are kind of that route runner, he's going to be able to stretch the field. He's going to be able to, give you these big, deep passes like Josh likes to throw. He's going to be open down there. He's always a couple steps on a guy. And if you can put it in the right spot, it's a touchdown. Amari Cooper's going to make that catch. Obviously, the drops are a concern. It has been his entire career. But, you put the ball in the best spot possible, he's going to catch that thing. It's Amari Cooper. I've seen so many catches he shouldn't have made, with Coop. But anyways, I love him. He's been on both of my favorite teams basically, and I've rooted for him the past like 8 years. It almost seems like so. I love to see him, and now he's with honestly like one of my favorite players in the NFL with Josh Allen. So I think that's a great move, and I know I've gotten on length with this, but I do love the player with Amari, and I think that he's going to absolutely succeed in Buffalo, and I'm just happy for him. Finally he gets a quarterback that's going to give him, the justice that he deserves. But anyways, with Devontae Adams, I'll keep it a little shorter. I love it, man. It's going to open up that Jets offense so much. Like obviously him and Aaron have a fantastic connection. It's just like an unspoken thing that like the day after he's traded, he's already in the Jets. I don't know where they were on that Pat McAfee show. I was watching it though. I was watching it live. I was like, oh my God, there he is. Cause they always have like Aaron Rodgers on. So, boom, that was like the trade happened that day and bang, Devontae Adams is at practice the next day. He's hanging out with A-Rod, and they're just, shooting the shit like they always do. So that offense is going to get a lot better, I really think. I think Rodgers is going to have a better time, and it just opens up pretty much everything. The big thing is, the protection. Is that gonna hold up? Is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to even throw the ball because he's not getting any pass protection? Like, yeah, I think they're going to get creative, and I think they're going to get Devontae the ball in very creative ways. So that's going to help your defense. That's going to help the whole team. It's a great move for both teams, and I'm not stressing over what they gave up for either situation. It was basically a steal in both of them, and look, those receivers find great homes.
If I'm Salah, I'm so pissed. I'm just like,
I know.
I got canned for literally no reason, and now they go trade for Adams, and they're going to be a lot better. That sucks. Yeah, you nailed it. Had to let the pup out. He was going a little crazy. That's why I left for just a second with those folks on YouTube.
He's a big Amari Cooper guy.
You can't. Odin hears Coop, and it triggers something. The howling just a comes a going. All right, NFL matchup times. We've got Thursday night this week, Broncos and Saints. Oh man, I'm gonna go Broncos on this one. Bo Nix has looked pretty solid. The Saints have some guys, but I'm not sure the status of Chris Olave. Raheed Shaheed did really well with Derek Carr, but I got to take the Broncos. Yeah. I got it. I got to take the Broncos. I don't know. I feel it a little bit. If you're a betting person, Thursday night games are not good to bet on. So I'd be a little bit careful on this one. But hey, Bo Nix, anytime touchdown, that's probably like minus a couple. You're not going to make a bunch of money. Do something.
We've seen the Saints defense get kind of thrashed, a little bit. At times they've been great. At times they've been really bad. So especially this past weekend. So it's just
get body. You know what I mean? Like it's just like this team showed up and destroyed the Cowboys, and then just
turned around and
just completely went away.
They left themselves in Dallas.
But hey,
Yeah, you were frozen on the screen there with a funny face, so hopefully we'll go back and see that on YouTube. That was pretty funny. You're good now, but I agree. It's gonna be a rough going for the Saints. I'm gonna pick the Broncos, and I think they'll win by I don't think a whole lot because you got Bo Nix. He's a rookie quarterback. Hopefully, he probably make some mistakes, but man, he can spread the field. That's what I like about him. He's not going to necessarily go on like the craziest drives, throw up the craziest plays, but he can spread the field. He can get a good drive going, and he can get points. So I think that's going to be the big matchup. Obviously whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. But in a league like this where it's been kind of stingy, almost at some times in some of these primetime games, I think that's just going to work wonders with Bo Nix in his first primetime slot. Man, it's going to be nervous. It's going to be a first time for him, but he's ready for the moment. I think all those big games at Oregon helped him, kind of prepare for this moment too. So. I got the Broncos by, let's say, 4.
There you go. So if you're 3.5 betting, go for it. Jags and Pats. London, do the Jags get back right? Do the Patriots win? It's a tough one. Rookie quarterback going over to London. To me, I'm just going to lean on the Jags a little bit. I think the Jags are going to come out here and actually win a game in London and look pretty decent at their pretty much home stadium. Who do you got in this one?
I got the Jags. I liked what they did against Indianapolis. Not like I think the previous week they put up like 34 or 37, something like that. It looked like the offense was really unlocked, and we've seen this Patriots defense give up a lot this year, unless your name is the Cincinnati Bengals. But they've been at times pretty bad unit. So it's going to be interesting. They got a lot of speedsters. They got a lot of guys too. So I don't think that it's going to be a one man show. I think Lawrence is going to throw it around, and you got a rookie quarterback on the other side. Obviously, that didn't really matter if your name is Caleb Williams last week, but I think that Drake May's a little bit more inexperienced. He's gonna, I think it'll be close though. I think the Jags get the win at the end. Hopefully they get that London crowd going behind him, and just finally get another win on the board. But I'm gonna go Jags.
And then a really good matchup midday Sunday. We have the Texans versus the Packers. Who you got in that one?
Oh man, I'm gonna go Texans. Texans are rolling right now. Like it's hard to say that they're not. I think Drake May played pretty well against that defense, but I think they're gonna. And Jordan Love is playing surprisingly pretty well after coming back from that injury. He's been putting up some numbers, but I think
Really
Jordan
good.
Love is he's like a a love child between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Like it just he looks like Aaron Rodgers but plays like Brett Favre at some points. He's a gunslinger, man. He just goes out there and he rips the ball. And it's like these throws, you're like, oh no, oh no, oh touchdown. It just kind of it's one of those things where it could go either way. Kind of like Josh a little bit earlier in his career. So, it's I like I've liked Jordan, but I think this is going to be a tough task for them. So this is going to be a barn burner, though. I think this is going to be a fun one. And C.J. Stroud has been questionable at moments this year, but he's starting to get going again. He's starting to look like the C.J. Stroud we saw last year, and that's kind of what we saw from the beginning of the season last year, anyways. But I think he's going to get rolling here. Joe Mixon looks great. That whole team looks great. Obviously, they don't got Nico Collins, but I mean, you got Diggs and Tank Dell. It's going to be enough, So I think I'm going to go Houston here, but I think it's going to be close. I think this is going to come down to the very end, probably the last drive.
I'm going Houston as well. They're my number 2 team in the AFC. The Packers have not yet broken that top 3. So Texans are my second best team in the AFC. So I gotta ride with the Texans. Then we have a Super Bowl rematch, Chiefs and 49ers. It's an interesting game. It's definitely a game that I could see that the Chiefs could get their first loss. But at the same time, like I'm never gonna bet against Patrick Mahomes. Every single time I do, I lose. So I'm gonna go Chiefs on this one. I think this one's gonna be close, and I do think the 49ers make it close because the Chiefs offense has not looked like the best offense in the NFL, we'll say. And if you drafted Patrick Mahomes very early, like everybody usually does, like I did, the fantasy numbers hasn't been there, but hey, they're undefeated. So I think they're going to keep it going against the 49ers. I got the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the Chiefs running game. I think that's going to be the biggest question coming into this game. Can Kareem Hunt do what he, did back in 2018, 2019? Like, can he be the back of old? So far, it looks like he's going to be that number 1 back. He's going to be that workhorse back that Pacheco pretty much was for them. And that Niners defensive front, it looks really good. They're starting to get going again, and it's going to be hard. I think these teams know each other, but I think I'm going to go Chiefs. Just same reason you said, it's hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, there's a little bit of recency bias with that recent Super Bowl, and I think it's just I think the Chiefs are going to take this one, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a close game again because, like I said, man, Brock Purdy's playing well. He's playing really well, and that Chiefs defense did get a little worse over the offseason, so it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up. I think depending on who's ready to go, I guess, for the San Francisco 49ers at running back, I mean, we don't even know who's going to be starting that game, right? Like Jordan Mason or the other guy. I don't even know his name. But I think they'll do well. It's Chris Jones. I think he's going to have an effect. But I think the Chiefs salted away at the very end, kind of like they do with every game.
And Sunday night we have the Jets against the Steelers. What do you know? The Jets are in primetime again. Steelers have come out and said that Russell Wilson's going to start for them this week. I'm personally, it's that Jets in Bills game. I will say that the Jets had a chance to win. I will 100% say that the Jets had a chance to win, and if they beat the Bills and get Devontae Adams, then this is a completely different conversation. But I'm going to go Jets in this one. Steelers are a team that I've seen up and down. Their coach has never finished under 8-8, or 500. You can't really do that anymore because there's 17 games. There used to be 16, but I got to go Jets here with that new offense. They seem like they're kind of starting to get going. And Aaron can only be held down for so long, and now you brought his literal boy back with him. And like I said, the wide receiver core immediately goes to like top, and their running back core is already insane. So I got to go Jets here, and on paper they're good. Their injuries are starting to come back too. So yeah, Jets. Give me Jets in this one.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for me. I'm gonna go Jets as well. I just don't understand the move all that much. I get it, Russell Wilson, like he's had success in the past, but and maybe he's looked great in practice. You know what I mean? Maybe we're just not seeing something from a fan's perspective with Pittsburgh. But like, why would you take Justin Fields out? I thought that he was playing really well. I thought that he has put the team in a great position to succeed in pretty much every game that he's played this season. I thought that at points, there were times where it's like, okay, maybe if we had, Russell Wilson in there, we could be doing something more. But I mean, Russ's or Jalen Justin Field, excuse me, he's 4-2. He's 4-2 over these first 6 games. Like, I mean, that's a winning record. The Steelers are, I believe, at the top of the division. Like, it's like, why make a quarterback change right now? After you're playing so well. So I don't really understand the move a whole ton. Especially, he's going up against the New York Jets defense on Sunday Night Football to begin his 2024 campaign and Russell Wilson. So questionable move. Maybe it's a whole lot of smoke. Maybe we just see Justin Fields go right back in the first quarter. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what unfolds. But I got the Jets, man. But I think it's going to be a low scoring game because those defenses are just nasty. And I love Rodgers, but that defense it's never been bad. And TJ Watt is on his way to another DPOY. So it's going to be hard to stop him, especially considering what we talked about earlier with the Jets' offensive line woes. Tyron Smith looks hot garbage. I watched him in that Buffalo game; it was not good. He looks not like the Tyron of old. He looks a little aged. So it's going to be tough. We'll see where they line up TJ, but he's probably going to be rushing, I would assume, over the right tackle like he usually does. But we'll see. We'll see if he switches over to Tyron's side. We'll see if he gives him some trouble. But TJ's going to be in the backfield all day long, all night long, and it's just going to be how they're going to take care of him. And that's the matchup. It's TJ Watt, like period. Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what he can do. He's a veteran, and he's faced some pretty good pass rushers in his career. But I'm still going to go with him. But I think it's being a grindy, nasty little game.
And Monday night we have the Ravens versus the Bucks. It's going to be a good game, going to be a really good game, but I got to give the edge to the Ravens because they're just playing on a whole nother level right now. Are you going shake and bake, or are you going Lamar?
I have to go Lamar. I think he's playing outstanding. That team is insane. Derrick Henry's a monster, and they pretty much have weapons at every single position. We saw Mark Andrews get a touchdown the other day. Hallelujah. Finally. It's about time. We forgot you were here, but I think that unlocked it. Mark Andrews getting a touchdown. My God, this team's going to the Super Bowl. So I I like the Ravens, man. It's hard. Like I said earlier, Baker has moments. It's a team that he knows well. It's a team that it's a player that the Ravens know well as well. In Baker Mayfield, they've played against him a lot, so they know a lot of what he likes to do. Granted, it's a new offense. He's in the NFC. He's been there this is his second year now, so it's going to look a whole little bit different. But again, still the same player. I think that Baker in moments has his moments, so I think I'm going to go Ravens here. But I think the Bucs do put up a good showing. They've been passing the ball very, very well this year, and it's going to be a question if they can get something going on the ground against the defensive line of the Baltimore Ravens. It's a nasty unit. It's probably the best in the NFL. But over through the air, they haven't been the best. They haven't been crazy good this year, and that's kind of where Tampa Bay is shining a little bit with Chris Godwin. I think he's stood out. I think obviously Mike Evans. He's every single year he's fantastic, but it's going to be interesting to see how they take care of those two. It's just going to be a good Monday night game. We got a good Sunday night game. Wish Thursday night was a little bit better, but we can only. I'll take 2 out of 3.
And the last Monday night game, we have the Chargers versus the Cardinals. Who you got in this one?
Give me Chargers. Obviously, old Berbert. Hopefully Harbaugh comes back. I know he had some issues last week. So I hope he's on the sideline again. He's a fantastic coach. He wins pretty much anywhere he goes. And I mean, Herbert, man, he's looking pretty good. I just, it's going to be a good game for them. It's going to be a good bounce back game for them to get a lot more confidence moving forward. I mean, Chargers are kind of sinking under the radar right now with how they're playing. I think J.K. Dobbins has looked great, and I think this whole team is just a big game away from being like, okay, we're them. We can do this. Obviously, that division's pretty tough, but there's a lot of wild cards, and the AFC has looked a little bit weaker than we thought this year. So maybe the Chargers can slip in there another time.
I think the only way the Cardinals win is if one of their two have a massive night. Whether that being Marvin Harrison Jr. or James Conner, and the Chargers have a sneaky good defense. So
yeah,
I don't know. The Chargers. It's the one that you want to go with, but I'm feeling cards here. I'm feeling Kyler. I'm feeling Kyler's going to come out and have a good show.
Like
we
I
had
said,
the segment earlier.
He has
where
so,
we
he has so much
him
talent. He has so much talent. He can just do so much. Like in any given game, like he can just go out there and perform. Like he can just run around the defense and just make plays happen. So I think that that's just a huge strength for him, and it puts him in position to win games. And like you said with James Conner. So, but anyways, continue.
Cardinals, man. Give me the Cardinals this week. Now that's all the NFL we got. Time to jump to a little bit of NCAA, a little bit of college football. We're not going to talk about matchups coming up this weekend because just open the ESPN app. There is so many good matchups this weekend, and there are so many good matchups. So it's college football right now is insane with all these teams. Alabama last week barely squeaked by South Carolina. That was a close one. Unfortunately, your Ohio State Buckeyes, did fall to Oregon. That was an interesting game. I want to get your take on that one. LSU walks it off against Ole Miss with the OT win.
That was fun.
But before we go any further, tell me about your Ohio State Buckeyes. What happened there? I mean, that was a game up till the very, very end.
I mean, you pretty much summed it up in one sentence there. The Buckeyes fell down at the wrong moment in the game. It's a tough. I think Howard, he goes down there a couple seconds earlier. They called the timeout and they have a chance to win that game, and they probably do. And I think we're talking a whole lot different on today about this matchup. But it's a fantastic game. I think Ohio State, they look as advertised against one of the best teams in the country. Same with Oregon, man. I think that it was a question coming in this year. Can they compete in the Big Ten? Absolutely, easily, not a question. Come on. So I think that they look great. I think that they're gonna make a splash in the playoffs this year, and these two teams are probably going to meet again in the Big Ten championship, and that's going to be the decider of who gets the bye for the Big Ten. So obviously, it was a fun game. It was a back and forth game. Dylan Gabriel looked great, and man, Evan Stewart is a menace. Just seeing him come from A&M and just absolutely have a field day against one of the better defenses supposedly in the NCAA coming into this season. So he just had a track day. It looked like they couldn't cover him. They tried towards the second half. They started finally putting someone else on him, and it didn't really matter. So I think Oregon's here to stay, man. It's gonna be fun in the Big Ten for the years to come, and this is gonna be a matchup I think in years to come as well with Ohio State and Oregon. So it's fun. I obviously didn't love the outcome of the game, but it was a fantastic game, I think, from both sides, and I think both teams can absolutely build on it from here on out. And like I said, Big Ten championship's going to be rocking.
It is going to be rocking, and like I said, LSU walked it off against Ole Miss with in overtime. That's a game that's on the Aggie schedule. Peep that if you're still watching on YouTube. That's Tanner and I's alma mater, but hey, they walked it off, and LSU is a game. Yeah, right in front of me. I should look next time. LSU walked it off in overtime, and LSU is a team that's always dangerous. That team is always dangerous, especially if they're in Death Valley. So LSU continues to rise. Ole Miss did fall a little bit, but these SEC teams look real good. And last point of the episode, got to shout out the unbelievable running back Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State, another 200-yard rushing game. Most rush yards in a single season in NCAA history was 2,628 held by Barry Sanders. That's right. Look that stat up myself. And Jonty is at 1,200 through 6 games. So we're looking good right now if he continues to do it the pace that he does. When does he get drafted? It's a great question because the NFL kind of, it's tough because it's hard to know the evaluation of running backs and how high he could go up the boards. If he does very, very well at the combine with the tape that he has, it's going to be hard to argue anything. But continuing to watch Boise State football, never thought I'd be watching as much Boise State football, but definitely am. And, hey, if you're an A&M fan, LSU is going to be a tough game coming up at the end of the year.
I just want Boise State in the playoffs. Like that's all I want. Can we get Army in there too? Is it too much to ask? It might be a little too much to ask for both of them. Can I get one of the two in the playoffs? I'd be pretty happy with it. So I love Genty. I think he's fantastic. I think he's going to be a future Pro Bowler in the NFL and probably an All Pro member for years to come in the NFL. And I love that he's doing it at Boise State. And they just hand him the ball. Have you seen how he stands in the backfield? He just stands
there. A menace.
He looks like Slenderman. Like he's like this
Freddy Krueger.
I know. Yeah, exactly. He's just he's like, okay, we can get him, and then he just like breaks like every single tackle in existence. And you're like, oh, maybe we don't have this one. And I mean, if you remember that game against Oregon, Boise State played not too long ago, like he was a factor in that game, 100%, and he destroyed that Oregon defense to pieces, and they almost lost. Oregon almost lost that game, and they had to get, I believe, a couple returns on special teams to actually win it. So that just, if you didn't know that, go back and watch that game, man, or at least watch some highlights of this dude. Just watch highlights in general. He's fantastic. I hope it's either him or Travis Hunter for the Heisman. We can finally get a Heisman, since I guess Devontae Smith, that's not a quarterback. And I think, the guy over in Miami, he's looking pretty good. But if Genty keeps doing this, he's gonna win it. Like if you break Barry Sanders' all-time single-season rushing record, you gotta give it to him, and that would just be the most deserved award in the country I've ever seen. So I'm rooting for him. I love Boise State. I love the blue field. And I hope this team continues to succeed, and I want to see him in the playoffs because I just want to see him under the biggest lights. I want to see what he does. I want to see if he continues to rush 200 yards a game against like Alabama. You know what I mean? Like he already did it against Oregon. We know he can do it. So I want to see him on the biggest stage. Boise, keep getting wins, keep racking it up. I want to see you at the end of the season.
Boise is Boise is your team this year. That the old Oregon State Beavers were my team last year. You know what I mean? You're a big Boise guy, and for some reason last year I just went ham on the old Oregon State Beavers
because it's a fun offense. You just give him the ball and he just goes yard. It's like, oh, touchdown, easy. It's like Madden on a rookie. Like, come on.
Literally, it is literally rookie numbers. But that is all the sports talk we got for today. Tanner, are we ready to do this again next week?
Yes, sir.
All right. See you, folks.